I'll tell you something I struggle with a lot over the years, and it's very well you might too. And what I didn't realize then that I realize now is that it's actually, you have a lot of advantages. And I'm talking to myself on this. Like I thought, I'm like, I didn't realize how many advantages I had when I thought it was bad. And this is the same thing for you. And I'll tell you what the problem was. The problem is for a long time, and I don't think this is uncommon. I think it's probably pretty common. But coming from when I say a modest background, it is very modest, right? And then when I got what happened is I didn't really know. Like you don't really. My video keeps cutting out on me, and I said on one of my other videos, it's because I think that I was running out of room on my iPad, but because I'll film on my iPad sometimes on my phone. But I cleared up a lot of space on my iPad because I had a bunch of videos on there, and it's still cutting out. So if it's one stream, so if there's cuts in it, it's just because of that. Anyways, what I was saying is that growing up, you don't really know whether you grew up poor, whether you grew up rich, or right in the middle. You don't really know because it's just how you grew up. So however you do, you don't really know until you get older. And what happened is I got into the real world, and all of a sudden I realized, I'm like, okay, I don't have any education, I don't have any money, I don't have any connections, I don't have any family connections, I don't have any like friend connections. And when I say friend connections, I mean, my friends were just same as me, just and I'm not saying like anyone was bad or anything. It's just like we didn't have anything. It's like we were not like connected people where it's like, oh, you're so and so is a real estate agent, they can connect you with this person. It was not like that. So what happens, get out into the real world, and I'm like, okay, I'm not only starting with zero, I'm starting from behind because I was already in debt when I was like 18 years old. So anyways, and again, it's not a complaint, but I'm just telling you where this is coming from. And the issue I had is that I was really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't want to say like depressed, upset, that I felt that people who came from good, rich backgrounds had a huge advantage. I thought, and I think to some degree they do, but there's a big but to that, and this is what I want you to realize if you come from a modest background. From my point of view, I thought, hey, you know what? If you come from a wealthy background, even moderately wealthy, you might have some connections. You might get college paid for. And for those of you who might be in college or going to college, if you're paying for it yourself, you had to take out student loans. You're in the what, sweetie? I'm doing a video. What's up?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you were done.
Okay, I'm doing a video. I'll be up there in a minute. Okay. I have 4 kids, so there's always interruptions. Anyways, if you're paying for it yourself and you took out a student loan, you're in that same boat that I am. So you very well have these same feelings. So I thought, well, if you're getting your schooling paid for, and you're going to a good school, and it's all paid for, and you can come out, you get a good job, and maybe your parents help you with whatever it is, give you help you get a car loan, or give you money for a car, or give you money for whatever it might be. That's a huge advantage. And I always carry that with me where, like almost like a weight, where almost like a resentment, like a chip on my shoulder. That's probably a better way to phrase it. And it really bothered me, and I'm like, so many people have so many advantages. And then, it's like I felt like I'm the only one in the world who had to make their own way. And now I realize that that's actually a huge advantage. That's a huge advantage, and this is why. And especially in hindsight, I see that it's an advantage, and this is why I'm telling it to you, because right now you probably can't see this. But looking back, what happened is that I had this almost like there was almost like failure is not an option. And I hate the overused cliches. I really do. Like, I hate like all the cliches, because a lot of it, there's there's some truth in a lot of things, and that's why they become cliches. But a lot of the stuff, it's all BS. Like, for example, and we won't get into this, but I'll give you an example. Like when people talk about, well, you got to have work-life balance. Again, that's one of those phrases. I talked about the other thing in one of my other videos. When you hear people talk about, well, you got to get up at 4 a.m. 99 times out of 100, the person doesn't know what they're talking about. There's a few people that do, and if they get up in the morning, that's great, and it works for them, right? But it doesn't work for everybody, and that's not what you should probably do. So, what I was saying though is that my video cut out again, but work-life balance is one of those things where if you hear people talking about it, it's like they don't know what they're talking about, and they've probably never done anything big, because the reality is when you're going after something big, there's not work-life balance. You don't have balance. It just doesn't exist. It could exist before your run-up or after, sure, but during it doesn't happen. Now, it doesn't mean that you ignore your family and you ignore your kids and all that. Now, there's people that do, but that's not the way. For me, I never did that. For me, I still, always try to be an involved dad, involved husband. But there were times where it's like, I'm working all the time, and it's like, yeah, I might get the kids to bed, and then I'm right back to, I work all day, get done with work, maybe have dinner with the family, help get the kids to bed, and then I'm right back to work, where there's no work-life balance. So what I'm saying is that, looking back, I had this chip on my shoulder. I had this almost like this hunger, like this desire. Oh, and I know what I was going to say too, like, as far as the cliches goes, the failure is not an option thing. There's a thing, and I didn't even see this whole movie. I saw part of it. It was, it was called Apollo 13, I think it was. And one of the guys said, and I think it's a true story, actually. And for some of you guys, maybe you've seen it, maybe you didn't. It's an older movie or whatever. But it was like, and I think it's a true story. And he said, failure is not an option, And I hate those cliches, because it's like, well, sometimes failure is an option. Sometimes things are just not going your way, and sometimes you got to just throw in the towel and move on to the next thing, right? So sometimes failure is an option. But I guess when you're on a spaceship and you're in outer space and you're trying to get back to Earth, I guess failure is not an option. I guess, yeah, okay. So in that case, I guess that's true. But for me, I always looked at it like failure is not an option. It was I was either going to succeed, or my new wife and kids were gonna have nothing, and I didn't know where they were gonna go. So it wasn't an option for me. The days getting up. There was plenty of days where I didn't want to. There's still days like that, but I'm saying, like, especially back in the day, there were plenty of days where I got up and I didn't want to deal with the day, because I knew what I was gonna deal with. I knew I was gonna deal with just crap all day. As I'm building my business, I knew I'm just gonna deal with crap. I'm gonna deal with people who are upset with me. Maybe their stuff didn't get there on time. Maybe the wrong stuff happened. I have issues with suppliers. I had issues with, with our telephone lines. I had issues with people working for me. I mean, it was and that's with any business owner. I'm not saying I'm unique on that, and I'm not bitching or moaning about it. I'm just saying that, like, that's the stuff you deal with. So, when I'm dealing with all this stuff, you get up in the morning, and again, at that point, it's like the money's not there yet. You're trying to get somewhere. So it's like you wake up, you feel like you're not really being compensated for what you're doing, and you kind of know what you're going to deal with that day. It's all crap. Like, it's all hard stuff, but I just got up and I did it. And I'll tell you one other thing too. I think this is kind of important. There were many times throughout the years where I had a conscious thought. I thought to myself, I'm like, man, I'll tell you what, if I didn't have, name it, this responsibility, these debts, whatever it might be, I remember saying to myself multiple times on multiple occasions, I would take a month off. I'd take 6 months off. I remember when I was like, 19 or 20, I remember thinking like, no, actually I was 22. I was 22 because I remember I had an office in a city over here in New Baltimore. I had an office over there. I remember thinking, I'm like, man, if I didn't have my business, if I didn't have like all these responsibilities already, I would probably take a year off. I remember thinking that at the time. Now, if in hindsight, if I would have taken that year off, that would have, I guess in hindsight, I think, well, it would have threw me off course. I wouldn't have achieved, but I don't know. Maybe it would have been better. I don't know. I don't think so, though. I really don't think so. I think it would have been worse. I think that would have been real bad. And then as I got older, when I, once we had kids, and my wife, never worked or anything, and so I've always been the one to support my whole family, and I remember having conscious thought, like, here and there, when everything's stacked up against, everything's stacking up against me. I remember thinking, like, if I didn't have all these responsibilities, I would probably go and take a month off, go on vacation for a month and just, get back and, kind of ease into it. Because every day was like a pressure cooker day. Even now, I mean, it still is. But it's different. It's different, as opposed to when you're coming up. Because I think the difference is when you're coming up, there's that thought, because you're always going to have obstacles, you're always going to have setbacks, you're always going to have times that are difficult. That's just part of life. I mean, that's just life. The difference is when you're coming up, you have these ambitions, you have these goals, you have these like dreams or desires. You're like, okay, I want to make a certain amount of money, I want to build my business, I want to excel at my job, I want to buy this real estate, whatever it is you're doing. But there's a part of you that I know people always say, oh, don't think about failure, it's only success, blah, 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 blah. No, I can tell you right now, there were many times where in the back of my mind, I didn't want to acknowledge it, but I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to work. When I laugh at people, after they've made their money, or people who had never done anything, and they'll say, oh, you always gotta believe in yourself, blah, blah, blah. And I agree with that to an extent, but I can tell you this. When you're on your way to your goal, and I can tell you from my experience, when I was running my business and I had no money, I've got lots of bills due, and I have orders to ship, and I have customers that are counting on me, and I've got and maybe I'm not getting paid from customers too that owe me money, and I've got all these things going on. I'm not exactly waking up going, yeah, I'm going to be a huge success. I'm going, what the hell am I doing? I don't know. Am I wasting my time? Like, I don't know if I can. But I remember thinking, like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if it's going to work. But what happens is, because I have to do it, I just kept showing up to my office and pushing through and pushing forward, right? And I think the difference is that once you do something, once you accomplish something, like for example now, like when I deal with stuff, as I still deal with stuff, I still deal with obstacles and setbacks and rebuilding things. The difference is that you have that confidence in the back of your mind that you're like, okay, I did it before, I can do it again. And I think that's the confidence, because even you see, if you follow, famous people, more specifically famous business people, and some of them have these trajectories and they go straight up, and they never have an obstacle in the world, but there's many of them who even once they got really, really rich, that they've had lots of obstacles, they had setbacks, but they rebuild. And if you read into these people, you'll see before they made it, huge, they had failure after failure after failure after failure. But again, it's once you accomplish something, you get that confidence, and that's why I talk a lot about, it's important to find a goal and accomplish it. Just do it, whatever it is, do it. Just throw yourself into it and do it, because the more you accomplish, the more confidence you build in it, and it creates almost like an armor on you. And life doesn't change as far as throwing obstacles at you, throwing problems at you, and as you know, and I know there's a lot of new subscribers to my channel, so someone who hasn't, maybe you haven't seen the other videos, but I'll tell you, I'm 45, I've got 4 kids, I'm married, and the difference is, as you get older, and I'm not that old, but I'm also not that young. I'm kind of I'm not in the middle anymore. I'll tell you actually real quick. I don't want to sidestep, but my wife actually pointed this out to me. She said she was joking about something, and or we saw something about like midlife or something like that, and she said, you know, that midlife, you know, people talk about like midlife is 50s, and it's not. It's something like 36 or something, because I think like the average lifespan of a man, I think men and women are pretty similar, but I think men are a little short. I think men might be 72 and women might be 75 or somewhere right around there. So it's like that puts middle age at like 37 or something. It's like it kind of you're like, wow. So my point is that, you know, being 45, it's like it changes things as far as like even like the problems you have, like compared to the problems you have when you're younger. So it's like the problems keep coming, but they're different as you get older. And but that's why it's so important to accomplish things and start accomplishing things. And even when you're starting small, you know, doing stuff. But you know, we're gonna wrap it up in that, because now I'm starting to go all over the place. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you know, definitely do please subscribe. You know, I've got more stuff coming, and you know, I like to tell a lot of like my business stories, my life stories, and just things that you know, because I've had to figure things out over the years. You know, I remember, oh God, no, I don't want to ramble, but I'll tell you real quick, okay? I remember years ago when I was first getting started. This is about 2008, 2009, and this is like I'm just getting started, and I already, you know, we already have a kid, and I'm trying to make money, and I'm not making any money yet. And I remember thinking, and I remember I had some ideas of like what would work in my business. Like I thought, like for example, I thought, okay, well, if I make 250 calls a day, and I wasn't making 250 calls a day yet at that point, but I thought if I made 250 phone calls a day, would that work? I think it would, but you know, I didn't know. And I always remember thinking, I wish there was someone I can ask. I wish there was someone I can ask, like a relative, or you know, I wish I could ask my dad that, or I wish I could ask, you know, so like someone that you can actually pick up the phone and talk to, not even, you know, someone close to me. I wish, and there wasn't. And I remember thinking, you know what, I'm gonna have to figure it out myself. And I remember at the time having a conscious thought of like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna figure it out myself, and the way I'm going to repay it is, as my kids get older, then I can pass that knowledge on to them. And that was my thought. And now I'll pass the knowledge on to you too. So everything, you know, again, that I talk about, everything that you know, we discuss is stuff that I've dealt with, the stuff that I've been through, stuff that works, stuff that doesn't work. And it's different than all the books you read. I can tell you that, because I've read them all too. And there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of fluff, and there's a lot of BS out there that doesn't necessarily work or doesn't have a huge effect. But there's stuff that does work, and there's stuff that you know, that I figured out. But well, I felt like that. I felt like today was kind of like like almost like a therapy session. I don't know why. It was actually, it was kind of heavy talking about that stuff. I don't know if you felt that was heavy, but you know, because that was a big thing for me about, you know, about like the wealth gap. You know, at the start the big thing for me. So, all right, we'll wrap it at that.